privilege to introduce the senator from the great state of Ohio and the vice presidential nominee, and I would say, personally, my hopeful Vice President of the United States of America, Mr. J.D. Vance.
Well, thank you all. Thank you so much. Thank you to Luke Moon and the Philos Project for having me today. Thank you to all the groups that organized this incredibly important event. And I know that in this crowd, some of us are Christians, some of us are Jews, some of us are people even of no faith, but we are united in the basic common sense principle that we want the good guys to win and we want the bad guys to lose. And what happened on October the 7th was disgraceful, and we have to fight to make sure it never happens again. Today, of course, we mark one of the one-year anniversary of one of the worst terrorist attacks in the last 30 years, and I think certainly the worst terrorist attack since 9/11, affecting, of course, different nations, different peoples, but united by a common thread. And we unite to say that this incredible and terrible assault on the Jewish people must never, ever happen again. Not since the Holocaust, almost 70 years ago, almost 80 years ago, have we had such a terrible attack on innocent Jewish life. Sadly, many Americans do not know the full truth of the Holocaust, and many Americans do not know the full truth of what really happened on October the 7th. Many don't know that more than 1,000 people, including 32 innocent American citizens, were killed. Many do not know that 252 people, including 12 Americans, were taken hostage by Hamas, and that Hamas has held American citizens hostage this entire time. I know, of course, it was Israel and it was Jewish people who were most affected by what happened on October the 7th. But we can't ever let the American media, we can't ever let our fellow citizens forget that October the 7th was not just an attack on Israel, and it was not just an attack on Jews, it was an attack on Americans, and every single American of common sense and principle must reject it. And I know that there are many, many people who want the war to end. I am certainly one of those who wants the war to end and wants peace to return to Israel and to the territories that are currently completely destroyed by war. But the truth is that the best way to end the war, and I believe the only way to end the war, is if Hamas would let the hostages go. And I wear this dog tag with, I think, a simple principle. Whatever your faith, whatever your political beliefs, I think that all of us can unite to say, bring them home. Bring the hostages home. This is disgraceful what's been happening, and we've got to bring them home. In fact, just before I came out here, I spoke to some of the families of the hostages. I spoke to the family of Omer, who is now about to celebrate his 23rd birthday, and he celebrated his 22nd birthday under Hamas captivity. Imagine what it would be like to be a 22 or 23-year-old man kept for a year by these brutal murderers. Think about what his life has been like. Think about what the last year of his life has been like. And I think it's impossible for any person with an ounce of moral courage or an ounce of conscience to not have their heart broken by what's happened to these this terrible thing that's happened to these hostages. It is disgraceful. And I hate to I'm going to get a little political here. It is disgraceful that we have an American president and vice president who haven't done a thing. Vice President Harris, our message is bring them home. Use your authority to help bring them home. We can do it. We just need real leadership. Now, today especially, which is extremely disgraceful if you think about what we're remembering here, a year later, over 1,000 Israelis, many Americans, innocents who lost their lives, who were brutally murdered by Hamas. Today, in the United States, there are literal pro-Hamas protesters around the country calling for a ceasefire. And what they're really calling for is for a unilateral surrender. I have a different message. The only way this war is going to end is when Hamas gives up its arms and stops the fighting and lets the hostages come home. That is the way to end this conflict. Now, my friends, you know this is not just a dispute about territory or borders. This is a war between a peaceful nation and terrorists who want to exterminate the Jewish people and eradicate the state of Israel forever. I know there are a lot of Americans who will go to protests and chant this slogan, from the river to the sea, without knowing what it actually means. And so I'd ask my Americans who chant that terrible thing, ask yourself, what river and what sea? When you say from the river to the sea, what you are fundamentally promoting and fundamentally celebrating is the end of a Jewish state altogether. Educate yourselves about what you're actually saying. It's a disgraceful slogan that is going to lead to the genocide of millions of people, and no person, no American of good conscience stands for it. Americans believe that Israel, we believe that the Jewish state has a right to exist, and Donald Trump and I will fight for that every single day when we're in the White House. This past year, we have seen students in our own country sometimes supporting Islamist radicals, destroying property, and threatening Jewish students and professors. We've seen university leaders defending the destructive protests and struggling to condemn blatant acts of anti-Semitism. Of course, you have the right to protest, even if we disagree with your message. You do not have the right to harass your fellow students simply for being Jewish. We have journalists who refuse to cover the well-documented brutality and sexual violence perpetrated by Hamas. And at the same time, many short-sighted people in Washington, D.C. have tried to cozy up to Iran with billions of dollars in sanctions relief, allowing the regime to expand its terrorist brigade and fund Hamas. That is disgraceful. Why don't we cut off the money to Iran instead of making them as rich as they've ever been? What Hamas started on October the 7th now threatens to erupt into a widespread war. And I speak for Donald Trump, and I think I speak for all Americans in saying that we want peace. We want the real peace that can only exist in the region when Hamas is defeated. But let's recount the ways in which we don't have peace in the Middle East. There have been almost 200 attacks on U.S. troops, many from Iranian proxies, since October the 7th. That's just in the last year. We know that at least 4 American service members have died as a result of these attacks, including 3 on January the 28th at Tower 22 in Jordan. And we have a person, by the way, running for Vice President of the United States who says there are no American troops in harm's way. There are American troops in harm's way, and Iran is the one putting them in harm's way. Let's have some moral courage to at least admit that basic fact. Now we have Iran-backed Hezbollah attacking Israel, and Iran itself launching hundreds of rockets at our allies and sometimes even our own troops. America and the world are at risk of being dragged into a massive and bloody regional conflict, and none of us want that. So to achieve peace, we have to remember the very old and simple wisdom: peace comes through strength and not weakness. Peace comes from Peace comes from confronting our enemies and not hiding from them. And peace comes from simple moral courage. And so let me offer some. We stand with Israel today, and we unequivocally condemn anti-Semitism, whether it's in Israel, the Middle East, or in our own country. And because we want peace more than anything else, and because we'd like to prevent this from becoming a broader regional conflict, we support Israel's right to exist. We support Israel's right to defend itself and to do what it takes to end the war. Bring real peace by ending the war the right way. Now, I speak for Donald Trump in saying that when he is president, America will protect our American Jewish brothers and sisters. We will stop funding anti-American and anti-Jewish radicals. And we are going to bring home American hostages wherever they're held and whoever is holding them. We want to give Israel the right and the ability to finish what Hamas started. Israel didn't start this, Hamas did, but Israel's going to finish it. And we're going to say, if you're an elite university, if you're using federal money to harass Jewish students, we're going to resolutely stand against anti-Jewish hate, and we're going to go after the accreditation and the federal support of colleges that won't look up for their own students. My friends, I know I speak for all of us in saying we will never forget October the 7th. We're going to reject anti-Semitism in our schools, reject it in our foreign policy, and if we do this the right way, we're going to reject it in the ballot box on November the 5th, 2024. So let me just say as a note of goodbye, I'm so grateful for all of you standing here. I know it takes courage to do it. I'm grateful for you all lending your voice that we're going to eradicate anti-Semitism in the United States of America. But most of all, I want us all to get back to a common sense set of policies where innocent Jews are not attacked, where our allies are not attacked, where innocent hostages are not taken for a year now and counting. We've got to just get back to common sense. And I promise you that when Donald Trump is the president of the United States, we are going to get back to common sense. We're going to fight for it, and we're going to fight for it every single day. God bless you so much. Thank you for having me. Let's go get this done, and let's remember the innocent people who lost their lives. God bless you all. Thank you for having me.